Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Choda with Ignition Time, and in this video I'm going to answer a very important question. What if your employer is starting to reopen and calling you back to work part-time? Are you still eligible for unemployment benefits? The short answer to this question is yes. There is a certain program called a work sharing program that will make you eligible for some unemployment benefits if you are called back to work for a limited number of hours. Now, the information I'm about to give you is not applicable to all states, and this is a federal guideline that you may or may not know. In fact, your employer should probably be aware of this, and if your employer is not aware of it, you should actually share this video with your employer and ask them to check out the link in the description section below. So the Department of Labor basically announced to employers, are you reopening your business? You'll actually see the tweet from the Department of Labor on your screen right now. Are you reopening your business and bringing workers back part-time? Contact your state unemployment office to learn about unemployment benefits available to individuals whose hours have been reduced. So I'll actually give you a document I'll provide you with a link to that document in the description section below, and this is going to be a very valuable document not only for you if you're called back to work for a limited number of hours in certain states. Let me be clear, in certain states, and I'll provide you with a link to the unemployment agency in all of those states, so you or your employer can go to those states to seek further information. But more importantly, this is the important part. If you're called back for a limited number of hours, you could be eligible for unemployment benefits. So let's dig into this. This is called the short-term compensation, the STC, also known as the work sharing or shared work program. And according to the Department of Labor, this is an alternative to layoffs for employers experiencing a reduction in available work. So here's what the Department of Labor is trying to do. If your employer doesn't have too many hours to give you, the Department of Labor does not want the employer to let you go. Let's be clear, they do not want the employer to let you go. This is a good thing. So in this case, what happens is if the employer brings you back for a limited number of hours, and again, this is in specific states, then this is an alternative to a layoff as far as the Department of Labor is concerned. And so the STC program, the short-term compensation program, preserves employees' jobs and employers' trained workforces during times of lowered economic activity. STC allows employers to reduce hours of work for employees rather than laying off some employees while others continue to work full-time. So this is a good thing in states that implement this program and for employers who implement this program. Now, let me be clear. Currently, 27 states have the STC program established as per their local laws and established as per federal guidelines, and 26 states have operational programs. Now, these states are Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Texas, Vermont, Washington, and Wisconsin. These are the states that actually have the program operational, and those employees experiencing a reduction in hours are allowed to collect a percentage of their unemployment compensation, UC state benefits, to replace a portion of their lost wages. STC cushions the adverse effect of the reduction in business activity on workers by averting layoffs. So this is again a measure to avoid you losing your job and you being let go from your job, and it ensures that these workers will be available to resume prior employment levels while business demand increases. So the idea is, if your employer doesn't have hours, they cut down your hours and you get a percentage of your lost wages from the state. Now, by the way, this is not going to compensate your entire lost revenue, but it's going to be something. So let's be clear about that, because the state is going to use a formula to calculate benefits, and also you need to be below a certain number of hours in terms of the hours that you have to qualify for those benefits. What are the exact qualification requirements? They depend on the state. They also depend on your employer, because your employer has to essentially apply and be a part of the STC program. So again, let's just keep that in mind, but this is an option and it's a good option for individuals in these states. Now, this is the eligibility criteria. In order to receive benefits under the STC program, employers must have an approved STC plan in place with the appropriate state workforce agency. So let's just say you're in the state of New Jersey, for example. The employer needs to have an approved STC program with the state of New Jersey. So what you can do if you're watching this video, you can actually talk to your employer if you're in one of these 27 states, and you can say, hey, can you make sure that you become a part of the STC program? So let the employer do that, because it's, as far as the employer is concerned, the money that comes to you from unemployment, it's something that you should be getting. So hopefully your employer is willing to cooperate with you to become a part of the STC program. Now, if your employer is already a part of the STC program, that's fantastic. All you have to do is now, make sure that you get the STC. So in order to receive benefits, employers need to have an approved STC plan in place with the appropriate state agency. The STC application process is initiated by the employer. This is important. It's initiated by the employer and not employees. Now, this is important. As an employee, when you apply for state unemployment insurance, you contact the state agency, you initiate it as an employee. But the STC program has to be initiated by employers. So the employer has to initiate the STC program, and then the state will start paying the employees. This is very important. So the best thing you can do is to, after you watch this video, talk to your employer if you're in one of these states and say, hey, are you participating in the STC program? Can you participate in the STC program? And then your employer has to contact the state agency and take the necessary steps. Every state agency has its own guidelines about this specific applications process, so your employer will need to apply. Therefore, in order for employees with reduced hours to potentially be eligible for STC, the employer must submit an application to the appropriate state agency, and the state must approve the employer's application or plan. That is the way this works. In order to qualify for STC, employees must first be determined to be eligible for unemployment compensation. So if you were eligible for unemployment benefits, then you will qualify for money through the STC. So that is the short-term compensation program. While receiving unemployment benefits through the STC program, employees are not required, this is important, are not required to meet availability for work search requirements, which, by the way, there are work search requirements for the Lost Wages Assistance Program and for traditional state unemployment. So once this public health emergency crisis is over, things will go back to quote unquote a normal world where unemployment insurance and unemployment benefits will be subject to work search requirements, because that's the way the program was intended. That's how it was meant to be structured. But this program, the STC program, employees are not required, let me be clear, not required to meet availability for work search requirements, but they are required to be available for their normal work week. So you will be required to be available for your normal work week in case your employer says, hey, I had you at 6 hours a week and now I want you at 40 hours a week. So you need to be available. That's very important. Also employees who are eligible to participate in an employer's STC program may be required to have a mandatory waiting period, which is a non-paid week. In other words, if you become a part of the program, you may not get paid initially for the through the STC program. Now keep in mind, any benefits received under federal or state unemployment compensation are taxable. So if you receive STC money, you will receive a form 1099G from the state where the claim was filed, showing the amount paid and any federal income taxes that may be withheld. So just keep that in mind. Also, the amount of unemployment compensation paid to individuals filing for STC is a prorated portion of the UC payment they would have received if they were totally unemployed. So let me give you an example, and again, this is an example from the Department of Labor. Let's say an employee normally works a 40-hour work week, and let's say the employee's work week is reduced by 8 hours, or 20%. If the employee has been laid off and totally unemployed and determined to be eligible for unemployment compensation, the individual would normally have received a weekly benefit amount of $270. Now the employer submits an STC plan, and the plan is approved. Okay, we're going to assume that this is an example. This is just an example, everybody. Your situation is going to be different. This is just an example. Under the STC plan, the employee would receive $54 of benefits, which is 20% of $270, in addition to the 32 hours of wages earned from the employer. Now again, the number of hours you need to work and how that ties into STC will be determined by the state and by your employer, but hopefully this gives you a guideline. I do believe that every state has a guideline in terms of how many hours you need to work in order to be able to be eligible for STC, because in the past, the STC guidelines required that there would be a significant amount of hours cut. Right now, it seems based on this document that is going to vary by state. So you will have to, you and your employer, let me be specific, your employer will have to talk to your state about the specific guidelines, but hopefully this gives you an idea, a path to hopefully having some compensation. It's not a lot, it's clearly not a lot, but hopefully this gives you a path to having some compensation if you're in one of the 27 states that I mentioned at the start of the video, and if your employer is a part of the STC program. They have an approved STC, short time compensation application. I meant to say short time. I'm sorry if I said short term at the start of the video. I've been reading fast and I've been trying to get through a lot of information. So it's short time compensation, okay? Short time compensation. Once again, let me give you the 27 states. Specifically, 26 states have operational programs: Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Texas, Vermont, Washington, and Wisconsin. This is the short time compensation program, not the short term compensation program. I realize that as I've been making this video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. If you don't know anything about me, please check out my introductory video on our channel. As you know, I have the fortune, the privilege, the honor of living the American dream. I am a beneficiary of the greatness of this country, and I do believe this country is great despite what some of us might be feeling at this point in time. I will help you live your American dream if you give me the opportunity to. Please like, please subscribe, please enable notifications so you get instant alerts going forward. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time. If you don't get notifications, because sometimes YouTube's a bit funny that way, make sure you bookmark our channel, youtube.com/ignition time, so you can visit our channel on your own, and maybe once a day or something, and then you can see whatever new videos we've released. If you want to get alerts from us, get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000, that's 70000, and you'll get added to our SMS list. You can also get added to our email list. You can also go to ignitiontime.com/alerts, and then you can get added to our email list going forward. I really appreciate you watching. I hope this was helpful. If you are not in one of the 26 states, then share this video with someone who is in one of those states so that they can talk to their employer about a short time compensation program. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in the next video of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.